Suppose we'll get into it then.
Hell yeah.
Oh, so I mean, I guess we'll just kind of start off really quickly. If you could like tell me how you got into streaming in the first place and the reasons why you got into streaming.
Yeah, so I started streaming in 2011, which is a long, long time ago now. But I basically started streaming because I had found this amazing game called StarCraft 2, and I didn't really know anybody that played it in my immediate circles as such. And I decided to just be like, hey, well, I didn't know about forums, anything of that. So I was just like, all right, well, I used to watch streams and like YouTubers and stuff like that. So I was like, what if I stream my gameplay and then I can get feedback and I can learn the game? Because then people can like help me out and, tell me what I'm doing wrong so I can fix it. And lo and behold, Twitch loves nothing more than to tell you when you're wrong. So
Yeah.
such grew my stream. And eventually I got pretty good at it. And yeah, I kind of took off from there, really.
So you've been streaming for 9 years. Have you ever thought about kind of slowing down from that, or
It's the opposite. I
moving
just
away
want
from
to
it?
stream more because it's such a weird thing because I'm a pretty introverted person, but it feels like Twitch gives me the space to talk to people on my terms. So I'm also on the autistic spectrum, which means that social interactions in real life can be pretty overwhelming sometimes. There's a lot of inputs and like sensory inputs and stuff like that, which can be pretty overwhelming. But on a stream, if I get sensory overload or if I feel like, oh, I've had enough or like whatever it is, I just have the option to walk away, like no questions asked, pretty much, because everybody's like, oh, all right, cool. See you
Yeah.
tomorrow. Like it's social interaction on my terms,
Yeah,
which fits me
I
great.
never really thought about it like that. I mean, I guess there's a difference between streamer sizes of like your size and then the absolute upper echelon of like Tim the Tatman and all that kind of stuff. It's
Oh,
like
for sure.
how much would you say like as a Twitch streamer you have, how much can you dictate what your community kind of ends up like and what your stream kind of atmosphere is like?
So I personally think you can do quite a lot to do that because I mean I have the privilege of being on Twitch for 9 years, so I've kind of seen. So at the start of my streaming years, when people didn't really know what me or my community was about, then you would get a lot more toxicity, a lot more offensive stuff, classic kind of Wild West Twitch chat.
Yeah.
But through extremely hard moderation, it kind of cut down on that, which in some respects definitely hurt your growth. Like if you let people be Wild West and you allow yourself to be this kind of target, then people will take advantage of that and it's fun. You know how it's just like children, like I don't know, poking a bug or something,
Yeah.
like they're just fascinated and will just keep doing it. But I definitely think with hard moderation and being open and honest and saying, hey, I don't appreciate that. So that's not what I want to do. Like communication, I think is really key because you can see that. I mean, I think, Tim the Tapman is probably a good example. Like he has a huge community, right? But
Yeah.
in comparison to like a lot of other communities, his Twitch chat is really friendly
Yeah.
as such. Or take Day 9, who is also like, he's also in the upper tiers, thousands of people. He is one of the absolute friendliest communities ever. And then in comparison to some other streamers that we don't have to mention,
Yeah.
which can have a quite negative community as a whole that kind of seeps over into other platforms. So I absolutely think that you as a streamer has like the ultimate responsibility. Of course, there's always going to be things that you have absolutely no control over, but I think that you can kind of set the tone for what you expect of your chat, and
Do,
then people will either raise to it or
do you
not.
think ultimately it's the goals you set for yourself? Because, growth is one thing, having a tight knit community is another, or do you think it's more about your actual personality? Like it doesn't matter whether you're going for growth or whether you want to keep a tight knit community, but it's just how you interact with people or your kind of demeanor and that kind of your personality almost rubs off on them, or like the case of like people who are similar like to hang around with each other. I don't see how Twitch would be any different. So do you think it's more regarding your goals on Twitch or more regarding just how you are as a person?
I think it's a little bit of everything that you just mentioned. I definitely think that, I mean, a huge part has to do with your personality. I think that's the main driving factor because, again, you kind of set the tone for your chat. So if you're pushing the boundaries a little bit and whatever, then your chat is going to be like, oh, we can push the boundaries a little bit. So you definitely influence a lot. But then also, I think like-minded individuals attract each other. So, if you're a group of friends and oh, my buddy Steve, he loves this kind of stuff, and then so all of a sudden you're two people that enjoys that kind of thing. So
Right.
absolutely, I think it's both. And same goes for whether it's a more wild community or a more tame community. Some people, oh, I love a chill atmosphere, or like, oh, I know when it's like high action, just wildness and craziness all the time. So you definitely attract different kind of people based on your personality. And then the goals that you set, I think that's more of like, again, I think that ties into your personality a little bit, like what you're more comfortable with. Do you prefer your community to be more tight knit, or do you not mind that everything is kind of a little haywire? And I mean, it all kind of ties together in a big, beautiful knot.
So talking about kind of like personality and audiences kind of being possibly impressionable to that. The Twitch audience can range from anything from young adults to like teenagers or any age basically. I kind of get into the nitty gritty of it, like what I'm sure there are days just like anybody. At the end of the day, you love streaming, but it is your job, and everybody has days that they don't want to work, they don't want to go to their job. Like what is it like, waking up in the morning, maybe just not feeling your best that day, but knowing that you have a stream schedule and you have people that expect you to be live and you're a big part of their day to be positive. What's that like, being able to be on screen? And I mean, do you pretend to be happy? Are you really open with your chat and just tell them I'm not feeling great today, so don't expect me to be my bubbly self? Like, how do you navigate that?
So I'm again, and I think that's because that's how I've been all my life, and I can't really function any other way. Like I'm the kind of person that has to be open because I can't really fake it. So, and people can catch on really quickly. Like, even if you try to pretend, in my experience, maybe it's just because I'm an extremely terrible actor. So, it might just be that. But in my experience, people can kind of sense if you're faking it, if that makes sense. Because in real, like, Twitch is so raw. It's not like YouTube where you can take like the best cuts. Like, what they see is what you get. So if you slip up on anything, if you have a bad day, I mean, you might not think that it shows, but maybe you're just a little bit snippier than normal, and people pick up on that because it's not exactly the same. So for me personally, I find that it's much easier to just be like, I'm pissed off today, or I just don't feel my best. I'm hungry. I'm grumpy. So today we're just gonna play this game, and we're gonna rant about like, what do you think is really annoying today? I want to hear all of your annoyances, because then I can join in and be like, oh, yeah, that's also annoying, man. And it kind of
You
fits,
wind yourself up.
your mood.
Wind
Yeah,
yourself up,
exactly.
kind of implode, and then simmer back down, reset your
Yeah, and
day.
then we can just, vent about everything, and then we can just be like, cool, so we did that. Now let's play some games.
So do you find like Twitch interactions quite human? Like when you're actually
Oh yeah.
expressing emotion or talking to people in the chat, like again, it's going back to those massive channels where all you see in chat is pog channel, blah blah blah, spam. That
Yeah.
when you actually have a community that you care about and care about you, like, just tell me what kind of those interactions are like on a day to day, like how human they can be, or you know what they
So
range from complete memery to just you know to deep hearted chats.
So it's as you say, I think it's very much tied to the size of your community, because obviously as a streamer you're just one person. And even though you appreciate everybody that's there, like again, even if you have a huge community of like fantastic individuals, you're going to have a hard time, remembering every detail because it's just too much to keep in your mind at any one time. So size definitely has a huge part of it. For me that has like a smaller, more tight-knit community, I mean, I feel like it's almost it's not quite a friendship because obviously it's such a one-way street, and I'm sure that people feel like it's almost like a friendship from their perspective because they get to know me so much and they have all their information about themselves. It's more of an exchange for a viewer, I feel like. Whereas for me, I only see what somebody puts in chat. So then if somebody that might have been watching for years, but maybe only spoken in chat, a handful of times, they're going to feel that we have a much closer bond that I necessarily feel to them. But that being said, I feel like it's interesting because on in my chat I can remember individuals that, I remember that, oh, they have their driving test coming up soon because they told me about that last time, or they applied to this new job. So it becomes a personal connection because you do become invested in what they share with you too. So, in my perspective, it's very much like a human connection. And there's been plenty of times where we've had, I remember super vividly like a couple of different instances, which was like very interesting. So you had, on the one hand, you had one guy that came in and was super toxic. And I have a tendency, so I react in two ways. The first one is like, "Oh, hey, are you okay? Are you having a bad day? Like, it's okay. We appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out in the chat. Anyways, even if you're not feeling your best." Or I'm just at the edge of being like, you know what? I'm done. All right, you want to call me stupid? You're stupid. Like, I will just turn around. I would make jokes of it or whatever. So I will either react in a very lighthearted, like kind of poking fun way, or like more of a concern kind of, hey, are you okay? Because you know that typically people that make kind of lash out, they're typically not mad at you because they've never seen you before.
Yeah, they're just
You're
angry
just
at the
the
world,
outlet.
and yeah.
Exactly. So I get it because I think we've all been there as people. Like we've all had situation where it has been out of our control. We're just super frustrated about something, and then somebody asks us, "Hey, are you okay?" And you go, "Fuck you, man," like because it's just the wrong time and whatever. So
Yeah.
this one guy who came in was super toxic, and the whole chat was just like, "Hey, like, are you okay? If you want to talk, we're here." Like nobody was reacting with, like, "Oh, get the fuck out of here" or whatever. It was quite the opposite. Like, "Hey, you're okay? Like, chill out. Like, maybe try again." And then he came back the next day, so he went quiet. He didn't type anymore in chat, so we assumed, all right, I guess he just left. He came back the next day and said, "Hey, thank you for being kind. It was the first time people had been kind to me in like a month." And I was feeling, really depressed, and I've been having like suicidal thoughts, and I wanted to, I feel like I can't follow my dreams and stuff. So I apologized. I was really rude when I came in here. So they actually came back the day after to apologize and, explain their situation, which I thought was like, what just happened? Like, this never happens. It's like seeing a unicorn in real life. Holy moly. Like, that's incredible.
Somebody
How such a little
apologizing on the
thing.
internet. Yeah.
Right? Like, for being rude. Like, that was just, and it just kind of brings it into perspective. Like, it is people. It's not just usernames. It's not just a face on a screen. Like, we're all people kind of in this together. And there's been plenty of times where people have come in and, with depression, that's super prevalent. And I think that's because, a lot of us that play video games, and maybe, I mean, from my experience, being on the autistic spectrum, not being the best at social interactions and stuff, I was super lonely when I was younger. So gaming and the gaming atmosphere for me was kind of the one place where I could, talk to people and make friends, because that was the one place where we had like a common interest, and it wasn't so difficult to kind of participate in comparison to like other activities in real life. So I get it that, a lot of people kind of come there as an escape. And there's been a lot of people that's come out over the years and be like, "Hey, thank you for streaming for like throughout this, because I've been going through like a really hard time, and just tuning in and like hanging out with everybody has made a huge difference in my life." And like those are the kind of things that you don't really think about when you're just sitting there playing video games, because you don't really realize the impact you can have on somebody.
Yeah.
Or, whatever. And that's where I say that, your personality and the kind of how you shape your community is affecting people a lot more. Like if you make it known that it's okay to treat others in like a really horrible way, and you normalize being toxic, well, you're cultivating that behavior in a lot of people, because a lot of people are super impressionable, because again, you don't know how young they are or what life experience they have. Imagine somebody that is on that kind of, I see it as like a crossroads where life is just awful, don't know what to do, and you have two choices: just wallow in it, spread it to everybody, be mean around you, just spikes out, or you can just be like, "Man, this really sucks," and then get comforted and supported. I mean, those are the kind of two ways people typically react. Like either you're gonna reply with love, or you're gonna reply with hate. So in a lot of adversity, that's just true, I've come to find. So we try our best to make it a welcoming and, a kind of a supportive space, because that's what I want when I'm feeling like that. And some people just want to be left alone and don't want anybody to talk to or whatever. And, either way is fine, but it affects everybody around you a lot, I think.
Coming into the whole like loneliness topic and people having whatever it is, like a bad day, or to more severe extents like depression, or that one individual about talking about how he feels like he can't follow his dreams. I mean, this 2020's been rough, and I don't think anybody can say that it hasn't been. Have you noticed a difference like this year, particularly in any of the lockdowns at all, or do you think it's kind of stayed the same, like the tone of Twitch? Or
It's I've definitely noticed a change. Um, it's definitely more somber in chat. I still, we still have good days and everything. It's not like everything was just turned down. But you can definitely tell, and especially as a small streamer, because you can tell from your income as well. Um, so you can tell that everybody's kind of been struggling a lot more as well because, with people losing jobs, being in lockdown, being furloughed, getting sick, um, all of these kinds of things, because you notice that, people, A, don't have time, they're being super stressed out, and like, it's just an observation that kind of fits with the whole picture of what's going on in the world. So I've had people come in, oh, I'm so sorry, like I couldn't keep my sub up because, I lost my job. I'm like, Jesus, like the sub is the last thing. Like I get it. Like we're all going through this. Like and that's what is kind of like it's almost like they feel guilty for prioritizing real life because of this bond that they feel like they have to you. And like as much as I appreciate that, like I try to make sure that they know that, if you subscribe or if you support my stream monetarily in any way, shape, or form, that's just, gratuitous on top. Like I appreciate you just spending time and everything else is just, like garnish on top that I super appreciate.
yeah,
But if you got to take care of real life first, like that's no question. You don't have to come and apologize, especially like that's mental. Like, of course, you should cancel the sub. Like, if you just lost your job, like, of course, like you're still going to be a valued part of the community. But you can definitely tell that it's almost like, people, it feels heavier on people. Um, and I think it's heavy on all of us. So I'm not, I'm just trying to make sure that, hey, it's okay. Like, don't feel guilty for such a trivial thing as, not being able to be on Twitch as much because you're out there, trying to make ends meet. Like, it's, yeah, maybe it's because my community is so small and we're so kind of invested in everybody as an individual, because we can be because of our size, that it feels a lot more real. I'm not sure if I had a huge community with thousands of people, I'm not sure if I would feel the same way because I think it's easier for the big communities to kind of just make it a place where everybody can let go. Whereas my community, because it's so tight knit, is very much a very opus and on like opus and on. Well, there we go, open and honest place. English says second language, by the way. Yeah, so it's a very open and honest place. And I think that opens up to people feeling that they can vent about things like this, which I think is very valuable too, because everybody needs a place where you can just be like, man, today sucked.
so where do you land on the spectrum in terms of like the point of this documentary is talking about how Twitch can or well help combat loneliness in things like lockdown. And I'm pulling similarities between how they're thinking about taking away free TV licenses for I think people over 60, and how people are arguing that's like basically like a human right because that is a demographic largely affected
Oh,
by
yeah.
loneliness, and seeing those faces, hearing those
Yeah.
voices can be really helpful. And my argument is that Twitch is there, but you have interaction too, and you have communities, and you can even start your own stream if you really wish. You have to understand that
Yeah.
you're not going to have viewers straight away. But it's also it wouldn't be very journalistic of me not to notice that there can be negatives to Twitch, and as you just mentioned, there's also like people who like donate or feel that they have this connection to you. And not that you don't necessarily have that back, but obviously you don't have it on the intimacy level because you don't know what they look like, you don't know what their real name is, you don't, typically.
Yeah.
Like, so just explain to me where you're on the spectrum of Twitch being a positive factor in people's lives and a negative factor in people's lives. Keeping in mind that obviously any kind of abuse of any platform of any social media is negative, and that you need to mix it with real life. But like, just talk me through kind of your thought process of, can Twitch help people, and kind of on the grand scale, do you think it helps more people than it harnesses, and kind of what worries are there, like, that people need to be careful of? Before you answer
Yeah.
that, I'm gonna let my cat out the door because he keeps meowing.
I thought it was a baby.
Trying to do an interview, buddy.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I definitely, because as you said, with like, elderly people, for example, how TV or radio can be like such a big thing and just feeling less lonely. And I noticed for a fact because my grandmother lived alone, and, all the way up until she passed away. So for her, she would always have the radio on or the TV on because it feels like somebody's in the house with you. So it's 100% true, in my opinion, that something familiar in terms of entertainment that is like where you can hear people or see people is super, super valuable for just like a sense of feeling less isolated. So I think Twitch is definitely playing a huge role there. How, because I mean, again, I know just from people saying, oh, I just needed to get away from real life for a moment and just hang out with people that that you're comfortable with in an atmosphere that that you enjoy. So, absolutely. And I think that the main thing is like with any social media, it is what you put into it with a few caveats. So, if you go in with just like the exclusive intention, I just want to have entertainment on, and you completely ignore chat, then that can be a way of just having company without like being too interactive. It's like a passive kind of company thing. You can go in with the intention of being like, oh, I want to talk to everybody in chat today. I want to actually interact with people today, which means you get more out of it socially. Or you can, but then also you have to be aware of, well, then you also run the risk of, having trolls pop up, having all of the negatives pop up as well. So you definitely like, depending on your own intention, your own comfort level, you kind of dictate how much you kind of take out of Twitch. And just the same way, if you need to vent somewhere or just want to lash out somewhere, that will also manifest on Twitch. As I said, in either, people kind of being trolly or mean to each other or, whatever. So whatever you bring to the platform is usually what you get back. Because if you come in and, you're trolling or saying, like kind of mean things, and people are typically going to be mean back to you, and you might not feel better for it in the end. You're probably going to feel worse because you're like, oh, no, everybody just hates me, which isn't true, but it will probably feel like that just because social media is overwhelming that way. Because even if just like, three people kind of gang up on you and say the same thing, like, hey, cut it out, like that, you're so annoying or whatever, like that's three people that just like came at you, which can feel like a lot. So yeah, you definitely, and it's likewise if you come in and just like you're the kind of good vibes person, people are just gonna be like, hey man, and you get good vibes back. So it's like a mirror in a sense, in like a weird sense.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, so I think it definitely can help, but it only helps as much as like you want it to, because you kind of set the pace. Like, do you want the passive? Do you want to interact with chat? In what mood are you when you're interacting? Like, what kind of feedback are you gonna get? So, yeah, it can be helpful, but as with anything, trade carefully. You can get more than you bargained for.
Yeah. So, I mean, a part of this documentary is basically talking about how the technology of Twitch and streaming could be used for the older generation.
Hmm.
And how, I'm going to do kind of like not even a presentation, but show an old person Twitch, find something that they're interested in, whether they like cooking or sports or whatever it is, and show them a streamer about that and give them a chance to interact with that streamer and show them what that's like and get their honest to God, opinions. Like, do you feel like there should be a platform like that for the older generation? Do you feel like Twitch should do so, like make that maybe a sister platform for that kind of thing? Obviously it's never going to go to the, at least for the not until we all get old. But it's not going to be the
Yeah.
most massive platform. But do you feel like there should be some sort of effort done by whoever it is, YouTube, Twitch, a social media platform to design or help integrate an older generation into like live streaming and Twitch?
Yeah, no. So as I was saying, I think that it can definitely be beneficial. I mean, again, if my grandma had something like that, where she could talk to her friends at the same time as watching something communally. So because I guess to put it in terms that I would have explained it to my grandma is watching TV together but afar. So like you all join up and stuff like that. But I think that's more of like I don't think that Twitch as a platform can maybe do much about that apart from, if people when they sign up maybe fill in a questionnaire of what kind of content they're after. Like, oh, well, I like cooking, I like gardening, I like pets, I like maybe they like StarCraft as well, who knows. But, fill it in and then you can kind of tailor some suggestions like, oh, here's the cooking category, here's the arts category, here's that one. Because I know that there are older streamers out there, and I remember, like, in Sweden at least, we had, like, what would they call it? Like, the Silver Foxes? I remember we had a CSGO team of, like, elderly people. Like, it was awesome. They learned how to play CSGO and, like, wanted to compete and stuff like that just as a fun thing to do together. So there is, and I mean, I know in YouTube there's, like, at least a few elderly, like I think it's mainly elderly women. There's the one that was got quite famous for playing Skyrim a lot, for example. Like, so there's definitely like the will. Like, it's not like every older person is completely technically illiterate and stuff like that, or completely uninterested in this world either. So I think if there was just a better way, because I mean, and this is a complaint that pretty much everybody has had with Twitch for a very long time in general, is just that discoverability and finding what you look for or things that you're interested in general is very, very difficult. So, and that's just a quality of life for the platform as a whole, not just for any particular reason. But if they had a better way for, you know, you to find what you're interested in, then that could benefit, for example, different generations wanting to have a platform to congregate and get social with like-minded people. And I think you see this with a lot of things. I mean, I think Reddit is pretty infamous for this as well, how they have a very wide-ranging kind of user base where everything from, like lower teens to, the upper, like 60s and 70s and stuff like that. Which is super cool in my opinion. Like imagine if Twitch could be that place too where we can all kind of congregate. And it is to some extent, but it all is based around individual interests and I said like-minded people, which is where the discoverability needs to come in and be like, well, hey, we know that people that has checked similar interest boxes as you or have the same watch hours in different categories as you, they seem to enjoy, these channels or, these categories and stuff like that. And I think that could be immensely helpful. So I do think there is tools that, Twitch and other platforms can adopt to kind of help streamline this a bit because I 100% believe that that is the case. I mean, speaking from somebody that has moved away from our home country, like I live in England right now, but I'm Swedish originally, which means that most of my family is miles and miles and miles away, meaning that my family actually tune into my stream to kind of be like, "Oh, hey, what are you up to?" Because, like it fits in and they can see how I'm doing, they can talk to me, and of course we still talk on the phone and all the rest of it, but it's kind of like an easy way for them to just be like, oh, "I wonder what she's doing right now." And like check in and just have kind of a more personal connection. So I think that is absolutely true. But then another thing that I think would be super important is almost like communities. I have like Discord servers for different interests. Like imagine if I'm just thinking, imagine if my grandma had a Discord server with all of her friends and then they could watch and talk at the same time while watching stuff, even if that's TV or Twitch or listening to a radio show or whatever it might be. Like having that kind of thing to watch together that you can kind of integrate. Say that you're in a group call and we can just integrate a Twitch stream so we're all watching the same Twitch stream while being on Discord. That would be such a huge feature. But that would take the collaboration of, many different platforms. But I think that's, because there's obviously website like Watch Together for YouTube and stuff like that. But imagine if it could be done live, how much that would do socially. Like not just over Twitch chat, but like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we've covered pretty much everything I would like to. Is there anything else you would like to add on top of it, or?
No, I think like you asked really, really good questions, and I think that that really summarizes, being social on Twitch in different aspects. So yeah,
Oh,
no,
no,
not really.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much.